Well, hello guys, Sendou here again. So, I saw some comments on the last video, and they pretty much gave me the idea for the video today. And today we talk about fashion. No, today we talk about aiming. And I'm also gonna show some blast drills that I do, since that was another thing someone asked about. But aiming is quite a complex topic to say at least, but I think there's still some useful stuff to say about it that will maybe help you figure it out a bit. So, how I understand aiming personally is that it comes from two parts. The first one is just a mechanical execution. For example, I know that there's enemy like 90 degrees to the right of me, and I can do it either, or I can do it. Like that's like mechanical if I overshoot, or I undershoot, or I get it. Just the mechanical part where I know exactly where I have to aim, and if I hit it, it just depends on like my aiming basically, or like my mechanical execution part of the aim. And the second part is prediction, which is still pretty important for Splatoon because it's like a game with really slow projectiles and stuff. So for example, if I play Blaster, and from the time that I decide to shoot for it to actually shoot, it's actually like quite a long time. So I have to do some kind of prediction because like I'm in test range, it doesn't really come to play since I know exactly where they're gonna be. Even here they move, but as you may notice, it's kind of predictable, right? So that's like the second part, and both of these come together to decide whether you hit or not. So in test range, you can very effectively test the first part of the aiming. So let's say I'm the best predictor in the world. Well, I still need to know how to aim, right? And this is where test range is really useful because you can like make sure you always know like, okay, if the enemy is there, then I always hit my shots, right? And this is still very useful to do. But there's a couple of things to keep in mind here, but I'm gonna talk about them a bit later when I go over my blast drills. And the second part, the prediction, that's something more like you pick up when you play the game more. And there isn't really an easy way to practice it effectively. I think you just need to play the game more so you learn how to read people, like how are they gonna act in different situations, right? And that's where I think experienced players have a huge advance, because just think about it. I played this game for 3000 hours, so I've seen almost everything, so I have a pretty good idea in my head what's gonna happen if I shoot a guy that's there. Like, is he gonna rush me, is he gonna back down? And that depends where I should aim my next shot. But it depends on like so many different situations, like what weapon they have, what is the general situation of the game, and this isn't something you can easily practice. You have to go to actual solo queue and stuff and grind it out, and then that's how you get the second part of the aim, which is like the more like a prediction. But yeah, I should also probably mention a bit about motion, since this is something people, especially that don't use motion, like talking about a lot, I noticed. So, well, I'm just gonna be blunt about it. Basically, if you don't use motion, you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage. That said, I know some good players that don't use motion. But if you can learn it, then go for it. And guess what? Everyone can learn it. Like, the only real like scenario where you can't learn motion is if you have like some physical disability. Like in that case, I guess, like, you know, that's a very good benefit from stick controls, and in that case, like, don't worry, you'll still be able to play the game effectively. Like, there's many top players even that use stick. Well, many is not the best expression, but let's just say like this: if we had half of the top players play sticks and half play motion, then, you know, the other half with sticks would still do just fine. But for everyone else, the motion is something you can learn. Like, don't fool yourself into thinking I'm somehow incapable of learning motion. That's not a thing. So for motion learning, I'd recommend going through the single player. Single player is pretty like stress-free environment. It's pretty like designed to ease you into it. So that's where you kind of like learn to use motion better. And yeah, stuff like, you know, using stick and motion together, it can be a bit confusing at first. Like, I'm just gonna rotate around, but it's true. Like, using stick and motion at the same time, it can be confusing, and it's not something you learn from other games. But also, the longer you just play sticks, the harder it's gonna be, so I do recommend trying to just get it done with as early as possible. At first you're gonna go like a bit down, but then eventually you will get the benefit from it. But that's about it. Like, I don't wanna like preach about the motion stuff, like I think everyone knows at this point about general opinion on motion, so most of this stuff still applies to even if you don't use motion. But yeah, just sensitivity, I should mention that also. So I think in general, sensitivity around the middle is the best. Like, from my experience, what I see most top players use, it's sometimes somewhere in the middle. Like, if you go super fast, it's a bit too fast, and too low is too low. But if you don't have any idea what kind of motion and stick sensitivity to do, so start in the middle and then adjust it in the increments of 0.5. So, you know, I start here and then I go lower if I need or higher if I need, but don't go like woo like this. No, it might work for you, but it's good to start in the middle, and that's most likely gonna be the best place for you anyway. But yeah, blaster. So blaster, contrary to popular belief, you still need to aim with this thing. Like, the thing with blaster is that it doesn't have that many shots per tank, so if you are wasting your shots overly much, then you're gonna be able to kill much people. So I still do a fair amount of blaster drills, especially if I'm farming up before playing. So basically, how I understand these dummies that are up here are more like to me, like just practice like flicking upwards, like for Splatoon and stuff. But this doesn't really come to play with blasters, since, you know, you're not gonna be able to shoot down Splashtowns that much, thanks to the slow projectile speed. So personally, I just mostly shoot these for fun, or like try to shoot them with kind of like, you know, jump shots. And yeah, with jump shots, okay, still remember, if you shoot too early, it won't be accurate. So you have to wait till the apex of the jump if you want it to be accurate. In some situations, it doesn't have to be accurate, and that's fine too. Like, again, it doesn't really matter if it's accurate or not if I'm shooting around like this. But in some situations, it does matter, and in those situations, you have to wait a bit before you shoot if you want it to be accurate. So just keep that in mind, something that people often miss about blasters. But yeah, for me, normally around this are on the ground, like, you know, you can practice a bit, like, you know, channel like aiming, like, okay, how I combine different things and how I hit these shots. And these are more like if I want to, you know, practice more like this kind of aiming. But I think the thing about drills is that it doesn't really matter what kind of drills you do, to be honest. Like, you can be as creative about it as you want, but you should practice situations that you are most likely to encounter while playing the game. And also, you should making it hard enough for you that you miss some shots. If you make it so easy that I can never miss a shot, yeah, I'm sure this feels good, like my aim is 100%, right? Well, also, but like how you actually get better at anything is you make it a bit harder than you can actually handle. So you should like go like crazy and like try to really like go like really hard, and you like try to do some really hard stuff, and you know, you miss most of the shots, or even if not the most, still like missing shots means you're still like progressing in it. Like, of course, everything in the, you know, like, it doesn't really make sense if it's like, wow, almost trying to make a huge trick shots like 24/7 either. Like, no, I don't think that's like reasonable either. But just situations that you would encounter normally in gameplay. And then this is not so useful for blaster. It's just mostly come here for fun. Like, I think this is like something you can still like kind of get a hang of how the projectile speed works with moving targets. But normally I like practicing hitting moving targets in actual games more, because like no one really moves like this, so I don't know how useful it is anyway. But it's more like if you want to like try to see how the slow projectile speed affects when you're trying to hit a moving target, then here you can see it. And if you don't know, you have to like shoot a bit in advance if you want to hit them directly. But yeah, I mean, same principles apply to any weapon. Like, you can practice any weapon in the same ways. Just trying to think about what kind of situations I'm most likely to come across in the game. So not more so like practicing innocent trick shots like wow like 180, 360, 720 no scope now. It's more like just, you know, like 95% of shooting is gonna be pretty boring, like shooting somewhere in front of you on this axis. Like, yeah, this isn't do where you have to like switch around really fast and try to shoot them like behind the back or something, but they're very rare, and more commonly it's kind of like, well, I'm expected to die here anyway, and it's more like bonus if you manage to do it. So I'd say like most of the time you just wanna practice, like, you know, I think the best way I can put it, like, practice easy shots made hard, right? So like try to be fast about it and try to, you know, make some kind of like strafing, as we talked about in the strafing video, and combine it with, but yeah, just like that. Like, there isn't any right way to do it or wrong way to do it, it's just finding your personal preference and so on. But yeah, to come back to the aim, so to my understanding there's two things about aiming. First is just the mechanical execution, which you can very effectively practice in test range, and you should spend a lot of time in test range if you feel like your aiming is lacking. But also, like, honestly, like, everyone feels aim is lacking, so don't worry about it too much. And second part is predictive aiming, which is learning to guess where your enemy is going, which also affects if you hit shots or not, and this you can practice in solo queue and so on. And for drills, most important is that you make it hard enough for you that it feels like you're missing some shots at least, but also that you are mostly practicing stuff that you would normally use in like a usual game. And I think that's about what I want to say. If any questions or ideas for future videos, leave a comment. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.